There is something about people who need to see everything clean and organized that almost no one truly understands. From the outside, it may look like nothing more than a habit, an exaggeration, a pointless obsession with details that should not matter so much. But in reality, it may be the only thing separating a day that feels under control from a day that feels as though everything is falling apart. If you cannot relax while there is a glass out of place, a drawer left slightly open, or a cushion sitting crooked, it was never really about cleanliness or organization. This video will explain what is actually happening inside you and why you were never being dramatic for feeling this way. We are not talking about someone who simply prefers a tidy home. We are talking about a very specific kind of person. They walk into a room and, in less than 2 seconds, they already know exactly what is out of place. It is not a conscious decision. It is almost automatic. They straighten a crooked picture frame without even realizing they have done it. They cannot fully enjoy a movie while knowing there are dirty dishes waiting in the sink because a part of their mind remains there, constantly reminding them. They make the bed before leaving the house, even when they are in a hurry, because starting the day with an unmade bed feels wrong in a way they cannot fully explain. They see a piece of clothing thrown over a chair and feel a small, persistent discomfort until they put it away. Sometimes they clean the kitchen before going to sleep, even when they are completely exhausted, because the thought of waking up to a mess feels worse than losing a few minutes of sleep. They organize things that, to everyone else, already looked perfectly organized. They notice, without any effort, when someone has taken something and failed to return it to its exact place. A pair of scissors in the second drawer instead of the first. A remote control facing the wrong direction. Tiny details that, to them, seem to scream. And then, there is that moment when a small mess begins to grow right in front of their eyes. 1 cup becomes 2. 2 cups become a pile. Over time, they begin to prefer doing things alone because they have learned, often in the hardest possible way, that if they do not take care of it themselves, it will probably be left in a way that continues to bother them. They also notice when someone uses something and does not return it to the correct place, even when it is such a tiny detail that no one else would ever notice. If you recognized yourself in any of these moments, then you know exactly what we are talking about. And the sentence that summarizes all of this is simple. You are not looking for flaws in your environment. You simply notice what is out of place before you even have the chance to decide whether you want to notice it or not. The people around you often interpret this behavior in a very shallow way. They think you are being difficult, dramatic, overly demanding, or controlling. Some say you care too much about things that should not matter. Others say you are creating a problem where no problem exists. But that interpretation completely ignores what is happening inside you. It is not about wanting to control other people. It is not about being difficult to live with. It is about having a brain that registers details most people simply do not register, and needing to resolve those details before it can truly rest. Once you understand that, the entire story changes. The person who once seemed dramatic begins to look like someone carrying an invisible responsibility, a responsibility they never asked for. And perhaps you, watching this video right now, will finally feel the relief you have been waiting for a very long time. There is nothing wrong with you for being this way. There is a simple explanation for all of this, and it begins with the way the brain processes what the eyes can see. When many objects are present in the same environment, they begin competing for your attention. For some people, this process is much more intense. A room filled with objects that are out of place can feel mentally noisy, even when no one is making a single sound. This means that, even when you are not looking directly at the mess, a part of your mind continues to register that it is still there. It is like a small alarm running quietly in the background, even while you are trying to focus on something else. It is not an overreaction. It is simply the way your brain processes stimuli. It is important to clarify that this does not mean clutter destroys anyone's intelligence, or that an organized person is somehow more capable than someone who is not. What science suggests is much simpler. For some people, too much visual information increases the feeling of mental effort and distraction, and the intensity of that effect varies from one person to another. Perhaps you are not simply cleaning the table. Perhaps you are giving your brain a small, concrete piece of evidence that something, at least that one thing, can still be resolved. What very few people realize is that this behavior does not always come from the same place. Two people may have the exact same need to see everything organized, while carrying completely different reasons inside them. For some people, it comes from a natural attention to detail. They have always been this way, even as children, noticing things that everyone else seemed to overlook. It is not trauma. It is simply the way their minds have always worked. Others learned to be this way. They may have grown up in a home where mess often led to arguments, or where they were expected to help keep everything organized from a very young age. For these people, keeping their surroundings in order is not about appearance. It is about preventing a kind of tension they learned to fear. There are also people who use organization to regain a sense of control on days that seem to slip completely out of their hands. They cannot control the message that never arrived. They cannot immediately solve a financial problem with no clear answer. But they can control the position of an object on the table, and putting that object back in its place becomes the only victory available to them that day. Then, there are people for whom something simply feels wrong until it has been corrected. It is not really about dirt or cleanliness. It is about a feeling of incompleteness. A drawer left half closed, two objects sitting in mismatched positions. Often, they cannot even explain why it bothers them so much. For others, it is the result of social exhaustion turning into a need for visual silence. After an entire day filled with people, conversations, decisions, and demands, looking at an organized space may be the only way to feel that there is still one place that belongs entirely to them. None of these reasons is more valid than another, and most people will probably recognize themselves in more than one of them at the same time. But they all share one thing. Behind the need to organize, there is always a deeper need. And that need is almost never about the object itself. The hardest part of all this is not cleaning too much. It is being unable to turn off your awareness, even when your body is already exhausted and desperately wants to stop. The person sits down on the couch to rest, but their eyes keep working. The cushion out of place, the glass forgotten on the table, the shoe left in the middle of the hallway. Physically, they are sitting still. Mentally, they continue receiving reminder after reminder after reminder. And perhaps the worst part is hearing the same phrases over and over again. I'll put it away later. Just relax. You worry too much. But that is exactly the problem. They are looking at it. They do not choose to notice it. They simply see it. And pretending not to see it requires an amount of energy that no one else realizes is being spent. This can make them appear dramatic, difficult, even controlling. But from their point of view, they are only trying to find a little bit of peace. There is a quiet exhaustion in always being the only person who notices, in having to remind the same people about the same things again and again, in feeling as though you can only relax after everyone else has finished using the space and leaving their mess behind. There is a very specific kind of loneliness in this, the feeling that no one else sees what you see, and that, if you stop taking care of everything, the world around you will slowly begin to fall apart. It is not about being a perfectionist out of vanity. It is about carrying, alone, a weight that no one else seems able to feel. Deep down, what they wanted most was to truly rest. But for them, resting was never as simple as stopping. It was always, first, fix everything. Then, stop. And no matter how hard they try, the list of things that need to be handled never seems to completely end. But perhaps this story needs to be told in a different way. Maybe it was never about controlling other people. Maybe it was never about demanding perfection for no reason. Maybe it is about a mind that learned, at some point in life, that order means safety. And that, when everything is in its proper place, a small space finally opens up inside them. A space where they can breathe. That attention to detail, which sometimes feels like a problem, is also a very real strength. It is care. It is responsibility. It is awareness. What needs to change is not the sensitivity itself, but the belief that they are only allowed to rest when everything is absolutely perfect. In the end, the message is not that you should stop organizing. And it is not that you should pretend the mess does not bother you. The message is something else. Your awareness is real. Your care is real. And those qualities can make life easier, not only for you, but also for the people around you. But perhaps true balance is not learning to live in chaos. Perhaps it is being able to see something out of place without feeling as though your inner peace has been moved out of place with it. Did any of this feel familiar to you? Do you organize because you simply enjoy seeing everything in its proper place? Or because you genuinely cannot relax while something is out of place? Tell us in the comments. And if you recognized yourself in this video, consider subscribing to Everyday Mind. Here, we talk about the things that almost no one explains, but that almost everyone feels. The things that help us understand ourselves and get to know our own minds a little better. Until next time.